Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this video and its accompanying blog about the eclipse new moon, the solar eclipse of October the 14th, 2023. And it's much bigger than you might think, and it can be worked with for wonderful success in healing. So the totally key question is, how will you work with it? But please watch the video and read the blog post and then decide where you need to do the work, on what area of your life. What area of your life is crying out for you to heal it now? How will you heal it now? I suggest approaches to working with and healing from this eclipse at the end of the post. But let's do the videos and read the blog post and then do the work. So the first thing to check out is, well, what is the energy of an eclipse? The first thing to be aware of is that eclipse energies are very much like earthquake energies. With an earthquake, pressure builds up in the strata of the Earth's crust until the tension can be held no more. And then it breaks explosively, shaking the landscape and causing tsunamis if it's under the ocean. You see, stress should not be held forever. Stress eventually breaks. Stress can be held no longer. And I suppose the point is that we ourselves can get so stuck in our habits and ways that we can actually need earthquake-like eclipses to grow. An eclipse can do that for our life, for our awareness, for our sense of self, for our behaviour patterns and for our beliefs. Eclipse time is good for smashing all those when they are simply becoming a prison for us. So it is very, very good to know the details of an eclipse. And it's so also necessary to identify what way of working with the eclipse is good and necessary for you. And remember, at an eclipse time, something hidden is revealed very often. So reveal your greater and healed self at the time of this eclipse in some way. Achieve it through the work you do now. You may be pushed by pain, but you can be healed by vision. If your life has stagnant areas, an eclipse can give you an almighty push to get you out of the bog and stand instead in the light of the sun. Your unconscious patterns can be brought into greater clarity. An eclipse can be a divinely inspired chance to sort them out now. Now, an eclipse's energies are analysed according to the following factors: what sign it's in, what nakshatra it's in, what house in your birth chart does the eclipse occupy, because houses denote life areas. Importantly, what other planets in the heavens at the moment of eclipse aspect the eclipse, because those aspects can change the energy of the eclipse hugely. Important point number 5. Does a planet in the chart of the eclipse occupy one of the 3 Gandanta zones? The zones of immateriality but vast spiritual potential awareness, where water sign transitions to fire sign, Pisces to Aries, Cancer to Leo, Scorpio to Sagittarius. The last up to 4 degrees of the water sign, the first up to 4 degrees of the fire sign, and the nearer the 0 point, the vaster and the huger and the stronger the Gandanta energy is. Very importantly, does the eclipse conjunct or aspect one of the planets in your birth chart? That planet will be hugely affected. And point 7, a final point, it's helpful to know how close you are to the trajectory of the moon's shadow where it traverses the Earth. So let's go through the above points in relation to this solar eclipse, this new moon eclipse, where Sun is conjunct Moon. Okay, what sign is it in? Well, it's at 26 Vedic Virgo. That's 21 degrees Western Libra. Now, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Virgo is all about health, healing, and right living. By nature, Virgo is too critical and analytic and perfectionist. So Sun in Virgo is analytic, hard-working, and can become the victim in relationship or work situations. Moon in Virgo is healing and empathetic, discriminating and too analytic and overly critical, and can become the martyr. And so those sort of situations particularly might be highlighted, especially if you have planets in Virgo. So positively, this Virgo eclipse can bring you healing breakthrough. Identify now if you need a healing type breakthrough in some issue of your life or in some characteristic of your personality. Do the needed work to make that identification, and then please do the needed work to achieve the breakthrough, and I offer suggested possible methods at the end of the video and blog. So the next analysis criteria is what nakshatra does the eclipse occupy. The nakshatras are the 27 lunar signs of Vedic astrology that so supremely accurately depict our emotionally based consciousness, warts and all. Now this eclipse is in Chitra nakshatra, and Chitra is ruled by Mars. The core nature and purpose of Chitra is creativity, and Chitra's symbol is the pearl. Now, when you look at an oyster shell on the beach, for example, it can just look so dull. But when it's opened up, a pearl can be revealed within. And do remember that a pearl is produced by a grain of sand entering the oyster. So it's so often that our blemishes and hurts can produce our brilliance when we heal them. And Chitras have a duty in life to endlessly polish more and more and more and more brightly their pearl. And Chitras, by the way, have Mars-like tempers. Or so I'm told. I've got Sun in Chitra. Okay, analysis point 3. What house does this eclipse occupy in your birth chart? That will identify the life area affected by this eclipse for you personally. So, for example, if the eclipse is in your 3rd house, well, it might well be issues of courage. Courage that will surface and you need to bring revolution to. In the accompanying blog post, I give a much fuller list of the nature of each house, so you can have a look at that. Okay, going on to point number 4 for analysing the effect of an eclipse on you. What planets from the chart of the eclipse form an aspect to the eclipse? This issue is utterly huge. So here's the list for this eclipse. I'm starting with Uranus. There's a lot of huge enlargements of power created by planetary aspects, but maybe Uranus is equal tops. So Uranus in Aries inconjuncts the eclipse. That's a 150 degree aspect to an orb of 1 degree. Now Uranus is the energy of revolution. Don't mess with this imperative. Is there some area of your life that you so need to identify more fully that it needs revolution, and then do the work? Uranus is at 28 Vedic Aries, ruled by Mars. This Uranus energy is explosive. Use it though for the good in the work you do. Storm your own Bastille. Second aspect to the eclipse is a yod, a finger of God aspect. So a yod has a very small base and two very long sides. Of a quincunx is 150 degrees. It's called a finger of God because it has an energy of fate and destiny, and it points to the apex planet, which is the eclipse stellium in this case. And at the base of that yod are Uranus sextile Neptune. Yod energy is all about tension build-up. That's because it has the 2 inconjuncts. Tension build-up until you can no longer follow the pathway you are on. You can't cling any longer to the identity you're saying, this is me. And why? Because with a yod, we find that the pathway we are on no longer exists. We were loyally clinging to it and walking to it endlessly. But the pathway no longer exists. It splits. You come to the end of the pathway because you have to choose left or right. And the choice you make often feels fated. Now, the energy at the base of this particular finger of God yod is Uranus sextile Neptune. And typically, it means we have the opportunity to feel the elimination of our waking consciousness when we do the needed vision work to work out where we're at now, what particular issues we need to change now, and how we might bring in defined steps to do that. So it's the elimination of waking consciousness. It's the development and growth of subconscious powers. It's inner vision, inner illumination, enlightenment, inspiration, idealism, interest in spiritual subjects, religious issues, mysticism or art. What might be called peculiar psychic states, and so often peculiar psychic states can be the gateway to magical healing and empowerment work and inspiration, spiritual cognition and long journeys. Okay, third point, Chiron is opposite this eclipse new moon. The orb's 3 degrees. This does bring an energy of wound to this eclipse, but with the additional feature that we can heal our wound. It can feel like death and rebirth. It's the Chiron journey, but we might so need to do it. So in the chart, Chiron is opposite the eclipse stellium of Sun, Moon, Mercury and Ketu South Node. So with Chiron opposite the Sun, well, it's important to note that the Sun is weakened. For example, you might feel you have to prove yourself to others or another. Your fathering might have amounted to a wound in some way. And with Chiron there, we are each of us born to an existential challenge to heal our wound. And secondly, of course, because Sun and Moon are conjunct, Chiron is opposite the Moon in this eclipse. And this can indicate, for example, deep woundedness to how you express your feelings. You might not be able to express them directly, only obliquely or not at all, just bottle them up. And there's the risk you might project your feelings onto others instead. Your mothering may have amounted to a wound. And each of us is born with an existential challenge to heal our wound. Chiron is also opposite Mercury. So this is a wound to the way you think in some way, and can be a wound to the way you learn language. You could be too critical. Or the issue of the need to be fair to others gives you pain and makes you feel, oh, I could be being unfair. So you're caught in a dilemma by needing to totally see both sides. I've actually known people with the Chiron Mercury wound who even become TEFL teachers, teachers of English as a foreign language. They've got Chiron conjunct Mercury in their birth chart, but when Chiron has transited and opposes their natal Chiron Mercury, they suddenly become TEFL teachers. That's the wonder of Chiron, the wounded healer. So the fourth planet that Chiron aspects is Chiron opposition Ketu, the South Node. The orb's 3 degrees. The orb of Ketu South Node, by the way, the South Node is immense. It's at least half a sign. I'd say it pushes up to a whole sign. What's the energy of Ketu? Well, Ketu cuts, even catastrophically. Ketu is also the carrier of our karmas from our past lives and ancestry. I've recently had my nodal return, so Ketu going over natal Ketu. It sort of officially ends on the 30th of October when Ketu moves into Virgo. And I've learned so much about contacting past lives to understand what our scripts are in this life and healing that. And the huge importance of ancestral healing and knowing the issues there. You see, Ketu cuts, but with divine purpose. The divine purpose that we see beyond this world and deepen our spiritual connection. Now, because I said that Chiron is opposite Ketu and Ketu is conjunct the South Node, that means, of course, that Chiron is conjunct the North Node, Rahu, as well. Now, this brings a driven energy to heal your past negative karmas and manifest your positive karmas, if only we can see them clearly. And we're driven above all to tap into and realise our potential in this life. And you see, Rahu's energy is driven and hugely expansionary, and we actually have to purify that to succeed in getting to our goal. So, as you can see, Chiron opposite Ketu effect also affects Sun, Moon and Mercury as well. Now Ketu's energy, and remember Ketu has been transiting Libra for 18 months up to October the 30th. And from October the 30th, Ketu will be transiting Virgo. And Ketu's typical energy is fear. But the divine purpose of the fear is to make us delve into and face our issues and take a different direction. And bear in mind, as I said, that the energy of Rahu and Ketu extend at least half a sign either side of the degree they occupy, up to a whole 30 degrees or even. We have to bear in mind, whilst talking about the nodes, by the way, that Rahu, the North Node, is at 1 degree Aries in the Pisces-Aries Gandanta. And so Rahu is amidst the energy of impermanence and the unsupportiveness of this world. And so often Gandanta placement of planets, and Rahu's a big one, creates turbulent events and storms, for example. So the 3 Gandanta zones are the transition from the Vedic water sign to fire sign, Pisces to Aries, Cancer to Leo, and Scorpio to Sagittarius. The Gandanta is the most important and super valid concept. Indeed, it was finding that my moon was in the Pisces Gandanta zone at 29 degrees 56, Vedic Pisces, at the end of the last degree of Pisces, at the end of the last degree of the zodiac, which fitted the mothering I received and the life I was started with so totally. That was what converted me to